Welcome to Voices of Resilience, part of the Iron Sharpening Iron universe, where stories of strength, healing, and hope come to life. I'm your host, Davina Lyons, also known as Mama Lyons, and this space is dedicated to amplifying the voices of those who've turned pain into purpose. Each episode, we dive into real conversations about courage, self-discovery, and rising stronger than ever. So lean in, take a deep breath, and be inspired by the incredible voices of resilience, because every story has the power to heal. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Voices of Resilience, where we explore the real stories and real science behind what it takes to rise, regulate, and rebuild. Today's guest beautifully bridges culture, trauma, identity, and nervous system education. John Eli Garay is a mental health counselor, nervous system educator, and the founder of Entre Mundos Collective. With 3 graduate degrees and lived experience rooted in working the chili fields of Hatch, New Mexico, John brings both academic depth and embodied wisdom to his work. He specializes in helping bicultural Latinos understand how their autonomic nervous system, family conditioning, and cultural survival patterns shape their lives, and how to move from survival mode into self-led living. John is passionate about polyvagal theory and helping people build a healthy relationship with their nervous system so they can live regulated, empowered lives. John, welcome to Voices of Resilience. I am so glad you're here.
Hello, Davina.
Hey, John. I'm very glad you're here. I have been looking forward to this for quite some time. And now here we are, and couldn't be better timing. I think everyone needs what you're sharing, especially now. So, welcome, and just let's get started. Let's tell everybody who you are.
Well, you did a wonderful job of introducing me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. It's an honor to be here with you today. As you mentioned, I'm actually a trauma-informed therapist, uh, and I talk a lot about something that is called polyvagal theory. But more than talking about it, what I really enjoy doing is helping people use it to be able to help live regulated lives and move from survival states to being in a place where we're able to be flexible and navigating life with more ease than let's say if we were living from a trauma response.
Yeah. I think there's so much opportunity to educate people on this subject. As we talked about backstage prior, I'm kind of diving into the exact same thing with resiliency and looking more at the structure of resilience and how people can be more resilient. And what you talk about is also very needed. It's. I'll let you talk more about it because I think you're the expert. But definitely something that I want people to lean in on and really pay attention to because it's not something we see all the time or hear about all the time, but
Yeah.
yet it's extremely needed. So I know I mentioned that you grew up in Hatch, New Mexico. How did that experience shape the way you understand resilience today and the work you're doing today?
Yeah, so I grew up in this small farming community called it's Hatch, the Hatch Valley. I actually grew up 10 miles north of the Hatch Valley in a little, gosh, I don't even know what if you would call it a town or what. My nearest neighbor was a cow growing up. So, but what the Hatch Valley is, it's a farming community, and we are known for Hatch chili. Hatch, a lot of people think that Hatch chili is like a type of chili, but it's really where chili peppers come from.
Oh,
Um, at least the Hatch chili pepper comes from the Hatch Valley. And yeah, we're known as the chili capital of the world. And I grew up on a chili farm. Uh, and being a part of this community, what it really led to me is really being centered in it's basically a community made up of immigrants.
Mhm.
And growing up, I grew up alongside people who were first generation in the United States, generation in the United States. And I grew up seeing them struggle and establishing themselves here in the United States, establishing themselves in a place where they could be able to thrive and survive. And many of them like sending money back home to be able to support
Mhm.
their families, sometimes working for seasons. Many of my classmates that I went to school with would start off school with us in the fall, and by December, they'd no longer be with us because they'd be headed back home. And I just grew up around a lot of people doing their best to thrive and survive. And that's my
Mhm.
upbringing in a nutshell.
So that helped to shape who you are as a person. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I get that. So talk to us about Entre Mundos.
Entre Mundos, yes. So Entre Mundos Collective is actually a recent creation of mine.
Okay.
Part of what I mentioned, I'm a trauma therapist, and
Mhm.
really what I am passionate about is educating people about our autonomic nervous system. And I believe that understanding how our nervous system works can really empower us to live lives more freely and happy and healthy lives. And so, one of the things that I'm most passionate about is helping bicultural Latinos be able to understand what is taking place within themselves. And the words entre mundos means between worlds. And there's
Ah,
a yeah.
that's cool.
So there's a common phrase that's used with Latinos, with immigrants, first, second generation, here in the United States, where we say ni de aquí, ni de allá. And what that means is we're neither from here or from there, because we really have a difficult time as navigating between two cultures. There's certain expectations that are placed on us from our that are cultural, and then being also American at the same time. It seems like sometimes we can't find our place.
Mhm.
There's certain societal roles that are expected from both cultural groups, and it can leave us really dysregulated.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I can relate to that. Absolutely, I can. It makes a lot of sense. So I love that that you name the collective based on that. It has meaning. So that's really
Mhm.
really cool. Bicultural Latinos. Okay, so moving from survival mode to self-led living.
Mhm.
Um, give us a little more on that.
So, whenever I talk about survival modes, really what I'm talking about is survival states. And can I get a little nerdy?
Absolutely.
I tend
Because
to
I'm sure
get
there's
to,
some nerds out there listening. Yes.
so I get really excited about helping people understand how their nervous system responds to the world around them. And when I talk about survival modes, really what I'm talking about is survival states. Our autonomic nervous system is
Mhm,
designed in such a way to help us as human beings to survive. And so our autonomic nervous system, whenever it senses that we're in a place that is safe, when it senses safety in our environments and as we interact with others, it allows us to engage with the world around us, whether it's communicating with others, living alongside others, or even just simply being at peace. It doesn't mean that we're like doing backflips and everything's great. It's just that life is okay and life is safe. But you see, our autonomic nervous system has also stored the memory of every lived experience that we've ever had. And it even stores memories of things that our brain hasn't held on to, and it interprets our environments and our interactions with others based on all of our lived experiences. So whenever our nervous system senses that there's a cue of danger in our environment, we drop into a survival state. And the survival state could be fight or flight. That looks like
Mhm.
anxiety in a lot of us.
Mhm.
Or it can be in a state of shutdown. That looks like depression in a lot of us. When we talk about fight or flight, really what's taking place is our nervous system is either telling us, you need to get out of here. It isn't safe. It isn't safe to be. When I talk about, I talk a lot about, in Entre Mundos, about honoring our roots without losing ourselves.
Mhm.
But however, whenever we find ourselves in a place um, where people are frowning upon us being ourselves, it can send us into that state of flight or flight, where either we are wanting to escape and get away, or we find ourselves wanting to stand up and defend ourselves. Um, I want to point out that being in a state of fight or flight isn't a bad thing. It's our body's way of keeping us alive and moving us towards safety. The challenge is whenever we perpetually experience overwhelm and chronic stress, that we end up getting stuck in one of those states.
Mhm.
Um,
That makes a lot of sense. It really does. And I think about, of course, um, as a teacher and going in and having all types of experiences day after day with kids who are dysregulated. As teachers, I believe that that's something that teachers are all, their autonomic system is being impacted, and they are responding sometimes even when the danger's not there. Just the fear of having a dysregulated environment, they tend to be on guard for it. And it's hard to go back and forth with that, because you're dealing with 30 or 40 human beings, and every day you're going in there. So from that perspective, I get it. If I were to sort of personify what you're talking about, the first thing comes to my mind is, whew, every day I'm in that state. I'm trying to make sure all the kids are safe, but at the same time I need to be safe too. And that's huge, because I don't think a lot of people realize, especially people like firefighters and policemen and all of the people who are going into perceived danger for a living, so to speak. That has to be tough, um, to know how to regulate yourself and be fair about it, so to speak. So I get it. When you talk about a whole, a lot of people and culture, what I'm really interested in is when you talk about the stuff that's stored. Also, I don't know if you touch on epigenetics, but it's not just about you, it's also about your ancestors too, right? So
Absolutely.
it's a lot to carry. It's a lot to carry. Is it like being in a state of survival all the time? Survival
Yeah.
mode?
So, how can I explain this? Um, you're going to find a lot of people, like, on social media, different gurus always talking about living a regulated life. And the
Yeah.
reality is that we need a little bit of dysregulation to function in daily life.
Okay.
If you see that there is, well, you're a teacher, if there is a student that is being disruptive in class, and it can become a danger um, to either themselves or to one of the other students, you
Hmm.
need a little bit of flight or flight energy to be able to take action.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Uh, so what we want to do, what we want to be able to do, and what I encourage people to do, is to be able to develop flexible nervous systems
Mm.
where we are able to acknowledge what is taking place within us, to be able to take action, even if it's small steps, to be able to keep ourselves safe and also to move to a closer state of safety. A good example of this is, I hate the I-17.
Yeah.
If you're anybody's in the Phoenix area and you get on the I-17, it's my least favorite interstate here in the valley. I come from Hatch, New Mexico, where I have to worry about passing tractors on the road. So living
Right.
over here is a little stimulating for me.
I get it.
So I've had to learn how to be
Mhm,
a defensive driver.
mhm,
And with that, I need a little bit of anxious energy to be that defensive driver. And
mhm,
it's important for me to identify whenever I feel that movement, like in my chest, like, whoa, that was close, that
mhm,
I learn how to work with that and to be able to move myself to another lane that
mhm,
is a lot more smoother and less traffic. That
mm.
keeps me safe, and that's part of what we do with our nervous system whenever we're navigating life. I picture you in the classroom, and by the way, thank you for what you do. I
Oh,
mo- most of my heroes growing up were teachers. I think of my elementary school teachers are just so amazing to me, and there's very few teachers that I didn't get along with. Like they had such a big impact in my life.
I could see you as being the best student, honestly. I often, when I talk to adults, I picture them as kids. Also, a lot of kids, I picture them as adults. I always think about looking at who they are today. I could see you as being just the best student. And a lot of times I have students that I know adults, like I have right in my mind right now, I have a student that I'm like, that would have been John. You know what I mean? But yeah, thank you for that. I love it. I love being an educator. I love showing up for the kids, but definitely everything we're talking about today, teachers are impacted for sure, along
Yeah,
with a lot of other professions. But definitely, so your example is really good when you talk about you're able to, even though you're in that state, you're like, okay, I need to change lanes. I need to get into a better place. And you're able to do that, keeping yourself regulated, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's really one key thing for listeners is that, it's important to be reflective. It's important to be able to slow things down long enough to process what you're experiencing and move towards safety, not react, not get in the same state as the person or thing you're dealing with that could, only intensify the situation, is the way I see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's good stuff. Um, Talk to me about polyvagal theory in real life, because that's something that you mentioned also.
Yeah. So that's really it. Like I know I delved into being a little nerd really quickly into it because polyvagal theory is very technical, but it's just those aspects of it that I like to share with people and help people to understand that our nervous system has stored the memory of everything that has happened to us. And we actually have it basically works like a spidey sense. There's a process called neuroception.
Hmm.
Whenever we understand with our brain and we make meaning with our brain, we call that perception. But whenever our nervous system is assessing our environments and our interactions with other people, it's neurocepting. And it operates much like a spidey sense. Like whenever it senses danger, what ends up happening is there's something that takes place within our nervous system. We might feel like a pounding of the heart.
Hmm.
We might find that we're breathing faster. We might find some tension. Some people feel heat, tingling, and literally our body. Our bodies care about us, and so our body begins to pump blood to our extremities to help us to get away, to get that movement in. We need that energy to be able to go and to move to a place of safety or to create safety for ourselves. Um,
That's good. That's
uh,
good.
Now, whenever that overwhelm, well, I'll put it this way. And I kind of wanted to chuckle a little bit because I have no doubt all my teachers in elementary school loved me. And but as you could tell, I was a talker when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, me and you both.
So I needed a lot of redirection.
Yeah, but you know what? And the thing about talkers is it's interesting because a lot of times the brighter academically kids are, the more they talk too. They're not trying to hide because they're very confident. And so I don't think talker is a behavioral thing unless you do it while the teacher's talking. And that's
Yeah.
that's the thing that I struggle with all the time is those that like to do it
Yeah.
while I'm talking or trying to instruct. But anyway, it just shows who you're going
Yeah.
to be when you grow up. That's all.
Mhm.
And by the way, I like to when I have students like that, I
Mhm.
really like to cast positive visions for them.
Mhm.
So I will tell them, oh, wow, you're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be
Mhm.
you're going to do something one day that your gift is that gift of gab is going to come in handy.
Mhm.
Instead of saying things that are going to make them feel like, feel bad, I always try to project something very positive, and
Mhm.
because they'll grab a hold of that and they'll feel good about who they are.
Mhm.
So we kind of, if the
Mhm.
autonomic nervous system stores memory, I think it's
Mhm.
important to help build positive memories
Mhm.
for people in our lives. Speaking of which, how do you, with what we're talking about, how do you see this in relationships, friendships, relationships in general?
Mhm.
Um, how does this come into play? And even
Yeah.
in the work environment too.
Yeah. So just to backtrack a little bit,
Yeah.
usually whenever I'm educating somebody or like somebody comes to me for advice, or even like sometimes whenever I'm well, I teach a lot of polyvagal theory, even in the therapy room. It's usually somebody that is coming because they're stuck in a survival state, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens many times for us is that our nervous system ends up being shaped into a state of survival.
Right.
Uh, like I remember back, well, I grew up in a little small school. So like my graduating sixth grade class, there was 12 of us.
Oh
And
wow.
I hear teachers like having 30 plus students in their class.
Yeah.
And for things have changed significantly. It's hard to manage that. And let's say we have a teacher come in, and that teacher is there's somebody that has that is behaviorally challenged in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom, and it's every single day there's aggression, there's name calling. That teacher's autonomic nervous system is going to begin to become prepared to deal with that circumstance every single day. And it's
Right.
not that the autonomic nervous system is trying to torture you as a teacher, it's trying to protect you. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm giving that as an example. Whenever that happens day after day after day, what ends up happening, it's almost like a ladder. You go from flight or flight into a state of shutdown. It makes it difficult to wake up and go to work.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it difficult to show up. I have many friends who are teachers, and I always see them at the start of May. They start counting down those days.
Yes.
They're like,
Yes.
I can't wait, and
Yes.
rightfully so, because I
It's a lot.
can't even. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it's
a
a lot.
whole lot. It's a whole
Yes.
lot. I have a different understanding.
Hmm.
As a when I wasn't I just started teaching when my son was in middle school, going into high school. In elementary school, I wasn't teaching. I was doing other things. And I just, I think about if I'd known then,
Hmm.
when he was even younger. I mean, I was in the classroom a lot and I volunteered and everything. And I tried to be there because I was self employed and worked from home. So I had flexibility. But I just really did not realize just how much teachers experience. And I came from a family of educators,
Hmm.
but you didn't hear, you know, my mom was in the school system 27 years. Prior to that, my great aunts, uncle. I mean, I have a family of educators, PhDs. That was something in our family that was very celebrated, was education. However, I never heard them talk much about behavior because back then they handled it. It wasn't. It was just like you didn't. Your kids respected the teachers. It was just a whole different get down than it is now. And so I think each year as time goes by and and gentle parenting is, at the top of, how things are done, and kids are so much more entitled, so much more brash. They say using profanity. So you're right. I go in, I'm expecting to hear cursing. I'm expecting,
mm,
the N word being flung back and forth between kids. There's so many things that are happening.
mm,
And every day to prepare yourself for that is like, wow. Like you go in expecting it, but you also have to keep reminding yourself why you're there. What is my why? Why do I do this?
yeah, yeah,
And then every now and then I'll get a letter from a former student who's an adult now, who has kids, who's married, and they say, "You made the difference." And then
mm,
it's like,
yeah,
okay. And now I'm back in the game and I feel good.
yeah,
Um, so I just think it's definitely, it can be trauma. And of course, not just teachers, but any
mm,
profession that forces you to face perceived danger or whatever it may be on a daily basis.
mm,
Again, I mentioned law enforcement officers, firefighters, medical nurses. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to work in an emergency room. You know,
yeah, yeah,
and people who are listening, there's going to be so many careers that people don't even realize that that's what they're walking into on a daily basis. They're walking into something that's impacting their bodies and their lives, and they don't necessarily think about it. They just do it. You know. So, cultural conditioning. Let's talk about how family expectations and cultural survival patterns wire the nervous system differently.
yeah, yeah. That's where I get passionate about
Okay.
is um and I mentioned I like the whole concept between Entre Mundos is helping people navigate honoring roots without losing themselves. Um, within every family, there are expectations. Within every culture, there are expectations. I'll give you an example of mine. My dad really strongly desired for one of his sons to become a farmer, and there was five of us, and none of us are farmers. And so that was very difficult. My dad, at the age of five, he got whenever I turned five, he bought me a hoe, and he's like, "You're going to work with me in the fields this summer." And I did. I started working at the age of five alongside my dad, chopping weeds in the field, picking chili. Um, harvesting, we call it picking chili, but it's harvesting chili. And
I got it.
we have our own farm terms that we use. But there's just certain ways of being, and sometimes whenever like somebody that is maybe it's they're immigrants, they move to the United States, and
Hmm.
then send their child to school, and suddenly their child's no longer speaking Spanish the way that it's spoken at home. They're getting more accustomed to speaking English, and then they start forgetting words. It can create a lot of disappointment for the family whenever there's different ways of being. I give you an example using myself as well. I'm a very emotional male. I'm very I would fall into SHSP category. I'm very hypersensitive, and that is not the cultural norm for Hispanic Latino males.
Hmm.
There's not a ton of us that are therapists. Whenever I find them, I'm like, these are my people. Um,
Right.
so
Yes.
you have these expectations of what that you're told this is the way that you ought to live life and do life. And
Mm.
whenever it comes to being Hispanic, it might Latino, there's like the prioritization of familia and community. And then you swing to being an American, where it's a very individualized
Absolutely.
society.
Hmm.
And it can be very difficult for someone that is navigating both to find where they fit in. At
Hmm.
what point um, do I surrender to my family's expectations? And at what point do I surrender to American society's expectations? What
Mm.
ends up happening to a lot of people is that are navigating this is they are constantly hearing the messages given by either party, and it's creating anxiety within them.
Mm.
So
Contributing factor. Yeah.
they find themselves in a state of fight or flight because it's difficult to consistently hear disappointment coming from two different worlds.
And it sounds like that's something that starts at a young age because, like
Very
your
much.
example, you were young with your
Hmm.
dad's expectations. It's so funny that you bring this up because I was just talking to one of my Latino students, and he said I was because I have some students who aren't speaking English at all
Hmm.
and struggle with that, and they're English language learners. And so I have students who support them in the classroom. And I said to because I always wanted to learn to speak Spanish, I always wanted to, but I never did well in the class for some reason. My memory, I don't know, but I love it when I hear a different language being spoken. I just think it's so cool. Anyway, so I said to my student the other day, I said, that's really cool that you're fluent and that you haven't
Hmm.
stopped speaking. And he said, Miss, I forget words all the time. And because I don't speak Spanish that much at school. So it helps me to help another student so that I can, you know, stay on top of it. Because at home, we speak Spanish at home, but I'm at school more. And it's like I never thought about that. When he said he loses words, I didn't understand that. But yeah, it makes sense. It's what you do most. Um, yeah,
Absolutely.
so that can be a big part of survival is navigating those two worlds, like you said. And yeah, that's really interesting. Trauma. Talk about trauma and radical acceptance. That's a term I'm hearing, but what does that mean?
Yeah. So here's where I I struggle with the radical acceptance and trauma, and the reality is that I'm a trauma survivor,
Okay.
and no one can. I never place an expectation for anyone to just be okay with what happened
Right.
and to say I approve of this. And um, there's a lot of people that will use a lot of cliches. Uh, like everything happens for a reason. That is like
Mm.
one of the like my pet peeves. Like, do not tell me that because, yeah, dysregulated John will come out.
Oh, yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. Don't tell me that. Like I'm not a believer of that. But one of the things that I have learned through my own personal healing journey and through my growth is that whenever I give myself space to be present with my emotions and what's taking place within myself, when I honor the process that my nervous system is taking me through, is like if my autonomic nervous system is sensing anxiety, it's for a reason.
Hmm.
It's not just uh, like because it wants to make my life miserable. There's something significant that happened. And the thing about that is that I can't change what happened.
Right.
I can't go
Right.
back to the age of 4 years old and be like, hey, do over. I didn't
Right.
even have a choice in that.
Right.
So I've had to recognize that what happened happened. I can't go back and I can't change that. But I can choose to take small steps to build my life in a way that is meaningful to me today.
Hmm.
I can choose to um, I can choose to anchor myself in safety
Hmm.
so that way whenever I do experience a survival state like flight or flight, it's easier for me to find my way back home. I try to describe it kind of like a ladder. Whenever we're feeling safe, we're at the top. Whenever we're in a state of fight or flight, um, we're in the middle rungs, and when we're in a state of shutdown, we're on the bottom.
Hmm.
And the reality is that we go all up and down that ladder all day long.
All the time. Hmm.
Whenever I come to a point where I'm, you know, practicing radical acceptance is understanding that I will go up and down the ladder all day long.
Oh,
Understanding
okay.
that there are things that take place that have shaped the way that I respond to the world around me, certain scents, certain songs, certain
Mm,
terms of tones of voices. Um, it it all impacts how I experience life today.
mm.
Um, so wasn't planning on self-disclosing anything, but I thought it'd be
Oh, that's
important to
fine.
share.
Yeah, no, that's
But
fine.
I found myself being suddenly single about 2.5 years ago,
Hmm.
and nothing like horrible. Like I can't sit and like talk bad things about my ex
Right,
or anything like that, my former
right.
spouse. But there's certain ways of being. Like
Hmm.
there's certain scents, there's certain songs, there's certain tones of voices, there's certain expectations that now, as I'm navigating life and differently, they can take me back to the past.
Absolutely.
And I feel
Oh,
things that I felt 10 years ago. I'll feel things that I felt seven
okay.
years ago. And I have to remind my nervous system um, that I'm not in the past anymore. I'm in the present. It is 2026, and I'm pushing 50 years old. Um, like for the most part, my life has been. I just been thriving in life, just experiencing a lot of great things. Yes, I'm human, and yes, I have my ups and downs, but I have to remind myself. And when I talk about reminding my nervous system, is sometimes I have to cue myself into the cues of safety that are around me because my nervous system is only focusing on that one cue of danger.
Mm. You said so much there that I just want to put a pin in it real quick because,
Mhm.
um, first of all, I'd never, thank you for introducing the notion of radical acceptance and understanding that. And I too had experienced trauma as a child. And so I really, um, I go back and forth, like you said, I go back and forth with, oh, that's the past. You're okay. Move forward. But then I am at times triggered to think about certain things. And especially when my mom passed, losing my mother, I didn't have the greatest relationship with her. Everybody knows that that's followed me or pays attention. However, I was very fortunate that I was able to spend time with her right before she passed and be able to say some things that I needed to say. And she could actually hear it. I knew she could hear it. Um, I I do believe that we ended, so to speak, on much better terms because I was very kind in my parting words and forgiving and understanding um and but I miss her so much. It's the weirdest thing. I miss my mom so much. And even though and one of my roommates kind of joked about it and said, "You didn't even talk to her that much, when she was alive." And it's like, yeah, cuz she had her quirky ways about her. But as long as I knew she was safe and I knew where she was, I felt okay. If she talked to me, she talked to me. She had her moods, but when she was, it's so final, and I'm often I'm brought back to childhood memories of things that mattered to her. I mean, I grew up in a clean room. My mom, you couldn't have a germ anywhere, and you couldn't kick a rug out of place. You couldn't. So it's little things that I will think about. If I go in the bathroom and I wash my hands and I dry my hands on the towels, I think of my mother because you had to leave the towels straight. You know, in some households, who cares? Towels are just thrown on the rack. Who cares? But I wasn't raised that way. You know what I mean? Like all of the little things that mattered so much to her became a part of me. And when I learned about epigenetics and I learned about trauma, and I knew that my mom was passing down something that was handed to her, to me, and so forth and so on, I was in such a state of forgiveness and understanding. And then I started feeling bad. Like, why couldn't she live? Why couldn't she have this awareness that we have, John? You know, like I want everybody to really be open and forgive themselves and start to live. And so anyway, this is what you're talking about sort of reminds me
Mhm.
a lot of that, of how that makes me feel. Um,
One of the things I always try to talk about whenever we're navigating, being between two different worlds, is
mhm,
honoring our roots without losing ourselves. And it's important to recognize that two things can be true. I had a difficult upbringing with my father. Um, Poor guy. I always say, joke around and say I was his late life experience. He was 61 when I was born.
oh wow.
So
Yeah.
he had done raised a family, then married my mom, and then started a whole other family.
Yeah.
My oldest brother was 43 whenever I was born. So like there's this huge gap.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's in his 70s and he has a teenager and he doesn't understand me. And so there's a lot of like, man, I wish my dad would have XYZ, right? My dad missed out on all of this. And then there's also other truths. My dad provided for me the best way he knew how. My dad taught me how to work. Um,
Mhm.
and maybe in some places it'd be considered to be abuse what my dad did, but at the age of
Yeah.
5, here's a hoe. We're going to learn how to work. Guess what
Yeah.
that taught me? That taught me I never want to work in the field, so I'm going to get an education.
Right.
so, so there's so many things that I can hold true to both. My
Yes.
dad missed out, and my dad was such a blessing in other ways. And there's some days that I cry because I grieve the dad I wish I would have had.
Yeah.
And there's some days I wake up celebrating the gift that he was. And that's part of what reshaping your nervous system is about.
Okay.
Because if you wanted to right now, Davina, you could like just look at me and point out everything in my life that would be a red flag.
Hmm.
And you have every right because I'm human.
Hmm.
And I would hope that somewhere down the line you'd look and say, oh, there's a green flag. There's this lets me know that John's not too bad. He's an all right guy.
Hmm. I don't
But
see any red flags with you, but okay, John. For the sake of your example, but I actually see no red flags with you.
well, thank you.
I just know you to be a great guy. just, just to make that clear. But I get your point that you're
Yeah.
making.
Mhm.
I see green. I
Yeah.
see, yeah. No,
Yeah.
I totally relate. And when you said that about your dad, first thing when you said his age, I'm like, no wonder he handed him the shovel. That makes sense. He needed some help. He was getting tired.
Yeah.
I'm like, he had you at the age that I am right now. Oh my goodness, I would not want to start over. But yeah, you respect and understand where he was.
Mhm.
And it's I say the same thing when I look at myself and I look at all of the good things that I'm able to accomplish. And I can point back to one that I tell even the kids in my classroom all the time is that I learned to get up early. In my household, you did not sleep in. You got up at between 5 and 6 a.m. I don't care if
Mhm.
it's Saturday or Sunday, and you did your work, your chores. And when your chores were done, if you wanted to take a nap, you could. Of course, I never did. I'm up for the day. But I learned to get up. And now the notion of me sleeping in is that I've got to be sick. There's something wrong with me if I don't get up early. And usually that's my best time to
Yeah.
create, cultivate for my business, to do a lot of things. I get up and I work before I go to school to teach. I work on rising resilience. I work on my business for 2 or 3 hours. Then I go to school. I teach all day. By
Yeah.
the time I'm off, I'm pretty exhausted in the evening, but I still sometimes continue to work. I got that from my mom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She
Mhm.
taught me handle your business first. You know that whole early bird catches the worm thing?
Mhm.
That was a mantra in our house. I mean, you get up and you do. And I was raised as an only child, so she just had me to focus on. But honestly, it's there is so much good that you can pull from what was seemingly bad. So I totally get your example. That's a lot. So what haven't we covered? Regulation versus suppression. What does that mean?
So I just want to be blunt. If you suppress what your experience is, if you don't give space for yourself to be who you are, there will be no regulation.
Period.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once again, that goes back to the flexibility, just acknowledging where you're at. What are you experiencing?
Right.
Um, any emotion that we feel at any given moment is exactly the emotion that we need to be feeling. Now, maybe the intensity of it can be misleading at times, but nevertheless, it's the right emotion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's important to acknowledge that and give ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling
Mm-hmm.
and then anchor ourselves back in safety. What can we do to bring ourselves just one step closer to um, being in a state of safety? We use a word in therapy land called our window of tolerance, being back in a state where we're able to tolerate life and be able to just be. Doesn't mean that things are perfect,
Mm-hmm.
but we can tolerate it.
So, what do you think when people say to you, "Calm down, just calm down"? Is that is that
I, I think we'd have to bleep out what I want to say when they say
I
that.
know that's another thing that brings out dysregulated John. Calm down. I
Who
know.
has that ever helped?
Nobody.
No.
No
So
one.
here's what I want to present. I want to present like if we could personify calm as if calm was a person
Okay.
and learn how to introduce calm to our life. All right.
That's good. Hmm.
And whenever you think about a kid who is maybe like timid, a child who's timid, a child isn't going to be much trusting. A child might hide behind their parents, might not like try to distance themselves a little bit. So we have to do it with ease.
Hmm. Hmm.
You can't shock yourself into calm, like, let me present to you calm. Ta-da, it's right here. You have to ease into it.
Right.
And
Right.
it's an emotion. Emotions exist for a reason.
Hmm.
And if there's not a reason for your nervous system to feel calm, you're not going to feel it.
Right. Your mind is still working on whatever it is
Mhm.
that you
Yeah.
got you upset, or
Mhm.
you're in flight mode, or like you
Mhm.
said, it just there's a million things going on, and then someone comes along and says, "Just calm down." Well, that in and of itself can keep you at a heightened state unless you are
Absolutely.
able to make sense of it, make meaning of it yourself. And I
Yeah.
think that can sometimes for people take time.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on now, I think, with um, nationwide, worldwide, with everything that's happening. Um, I think so many people are at that state, like you said, where they're
Mhm.
having to regulate themselves. There's a lot of probably underlying worry that
Absolutely.
what's next? What are we dealing with, right? So for individuals, everyone has to find their way, I think, to, and again, John, I think you're more of an expert on this, but coping, for lack of a better term, coping mechanisms, you
Yeah.
know, do you think that's an individual thing? Do you think that's how can people move forward now? Or what do you recommend?
Yeah. So there's two things that whenever it comes to coping, there's self-regulation and there's co-regulation. And we are really apt as a society to talk about self-regulation because it's very Americanized. The United States of America is just very individualistic, which is both a beautiful thing, and it
Hmm.
can also be dysregulating whenever your nervous system is activated and you're in a survival state.
Hmm.
There's plenty of things that we can do for self-regulation, but what I'd like to do is just take a moment and talk to you about the power of co-regulation. And that's the power of being able to be in the presence of somebody who brings a feeling of calm and safety to you.
Mm.
Our autonomic nervous systems actually will attune to the nervous system of the people around us. If we find ourselves in circles where everybody's always in a state of anxiety, or everybody's always angry, or everybody's always slumped down and in despair, our nervous system is going to attune to that. But there's just some people that are just seem to be walking gifts that being in their presence just makes you feel calm and relaxed. That's what we need to find ourselves surrounded in community with that. Um,
Okay.
so
Mhm. Just realized that I need to plug in. Go ahead.
I was like, "Where's Davina going?"
Yeah.
No, no.
Two shows in a row I've done that. Anyway,
What did I say?
you said nothing.
She finally
My
saw a
screen
red.
said, any minute now, you're going to go bye-bye.
So she finally saw a red flag.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, John.
Yeah. Davina, I'm gonna jump back really quick to
Yeah.
what we were talking about, like teachers, like whenever you have that one child that perhaps is behaviorally challenged, and it's day after day after day. I mean, you can count to 100 all you want to. It's going to be very hard to regulate. But let's say you walk to the teacher's lounge, and there's someone that's there and says, "Hey, Mama Lion's, like, I got you," and gives you a hug.
Yeah.
Your nervous system's going to come up.
Ah,
That's
yeah.
co-regulation.
Co-regulation. I love that.
It may be in the form of a administrator in the school that just has a way of being present for all the teachers, that just simply says, "Hey, Davina, I got you. You're going to
Hmm.
be okay. You got this." And they use that tone of voice that is just so comforting. That's co-regulation. It brings you back. You got your community.
That's what my principal does. She comes through and she's just smiling. God knows she deals with way more than I do, but
Mhm.
she has a way of just, sometimes we don't communicate, we just look at each other, and
Mhm.
she'll be like, "You got this. You're
Yeah.
okay." So now I get that she's
Yeah.
co-regulating. I think, or I'm co-regulating with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's it's good to be aware of that, because now I think I want to be that for someone else too. Like I
Absolutely.
want to be that because there's an exchange there, right?
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, keeping it pushing positive is what I call it. But yes,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And co-regulation doesn't have to be like in person. Sometimes it's just simply sending a text or a few emojis, exchanging funny memes or reels, or looking at a picture. It,
yes, yes. I think our team does that a lot with each other,
yeah.
because we're in a team of teachers, and we do that. We support one another in ways like that. A funny meme, a TikTok, something, now I realize just how helpful that is.
Mhm.
So that's really a good point. A lot of what we're talking about to me also has to do with personal identity.
Mhm.
And I know that people have deep identity, things that they can't change, that's who they are. But then there's a shaping otherwise. So how, when you look at how a person's been raised, or maybe even as yourself, looking at how you've been raised, I think you've touched on this. Um, are you able to honor your roots? Are you able to honor and not feel trapped and still be, I mean, for the listeners, and still be able to be self-led, and is that like carving your own space? What is that like?
Yeah. I believe a lot of it is based on self-acceptance.
Mm,
And coming to a point, well,
yeah.
you can't accept yourself whenever you don't know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
really getting giving yourself the space to really come to terms with understanding your values, being able to identify, taking a look at like both cultures, and identifying what is it that I want to carry with me into the future, and what is there that I want to leave behind. I'm not a parent. That's one of the things that I wish I would have experienced Uh, but like, I'll give you an example. Latinos are very much well known for using la chancla, which is a sandal, for discipline.
Yes.
And there's funny memes. I've laughed.
Mhm.
My mom used a chancla on me. Um, I didn't have the opportunity to be a parent, but I had made a decision that if I had
Mhm.
children, I would not use la chancla.
Mhm.
Like, that's just something I wasn't going to take into the future with me.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of times it comes even like with world views, and like religion's a big one. Like, what do you
Yes.
want to take? How do you want to practice your faith, or do you even want to practice faith at all?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Right.
and it can be very heartbreaking to families that are really rooted and grounded in a specific way of being.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a person of faith. I don't practice my faith the way that I was raised to. And that, I know I've broken some hearts along the way. And I've had to also like give space for people to grieve that process.
Mhm. Mhm.
And and
Not everybody's
to
going to stay in your life. Not everybody's. I know you posted about that recently, and that was a
yeah,
very heartfult post. I totally
yeah.
that I think it was yesterday you posted about that.
I think so. Yeah. It was yesterday
Yeah,
or Friday. Yeah.
yeah, losing people that you love, that you
Yeah.
really felt, very close to and bonded, and because you're growing, evolving,
Mhm.
they're not always accepting, and that's also a part of life, a part of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You quoted Gary John Bishop. You have the life you're willing to put up with. Talk to us about that quote.
Yeah. So I always hand out his quotes and give recommendations of Gary John Bishop with a disclaimer. He has very profane titles to his books, but they're really good.
Okay.
He's from Scotland, and he's a little brash, but
Hmm.
he's actually the first life coach that I ever worked with. I had
Oh.
attended a seminar, and he pulled me to the hot seat and helped me work on a narrative that I had created in my life. And um, just in a quick nutshell with that, uh, being such an age gap between my siblings and I had created a story in early childhood that I was unwanted and unloved. It
Okay.
was obvious that there would be there my relationship with them would be different than the siblings that grew up together, because
Sure.
there's such an age gap. But at a young age I didn't understand that, so I created this narrative and I lived from that for years
Mm,
until I came face to face recognizing that that wasn't the truth.
right.
um, I spoke to my sister about that, and
Mm,
my sister, she she was the youngest before I became the youngest.
okay.
And
Yeah.
when I shared it with her, I said, "Hey, I've made up this narrative, and this is what I've lived through." And she says, "John, I'm so sorry that you felt this way, but I need to share with you something." She said, "I carry a picture of you in my wallet, and anytime anybody asks me for my family, I always say this is my little brother." I never knew that.
Oh, wow.
But had I not chosen to address that narrative, I would have put up with that narrative all my life, and it would have prevented me from experiencing my sister and other family members to the fullest. If you
Wow.
don't like the way something is in your life, you don't have to put up with it. You can
Mm,
change it.
you can change it. Man, that is profound. That's profound. I wonder how many people are carrying false narratives for whatever reason. And all it takes is maybe researching or asking the right questions or talking to a person like you did, your sister, that can change that narrative.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Wow. I feel like there's so much that you can share. I know you'll be back. I know you'll be on one of our other shows, maybe. I'm sure Iron Sharpening Iron would be a great show. I just hang back, don't go away after we end this session, because we definitely want to hear more from you. I did take a peek real quick at the comments, and You know, this is really good information. Sharing that what you experienced must have been hard. And listen, I mean, people are very supportive. This is so good. Oh, one comment: there's no bleeps on live shows. So earlier, there's nothing to bleep. It just would have been live. Um, yeah, just like I can't bleep out the fact that I forgot to plug in the computer once again. It's a good thing it gives you a warning. That's all I know.
Right?
It's a good thing. Otherwise, that would have been all bad. But you know what? Every show, John, I learned something, and you taught me quite a bit. I'm going to play this back and listen to it again and again because there's some things that you brought up, specifically co-regulation. I mean, that I really love that. That's an opportunity for me, for everyone who's listening, to change conditions for people around them just by being that positive spark or source or energy. So thank you for that. There were a lot of nuggets. Any parting words to listeners? Anything you want to say before we end this episode?
I really just want to encourage everyone to spend the time to get to know who you really are. And you owe it to yourself to be
Mhm.
yourself and to love yourself.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think that that's key in every situation. I want you to come back. We're going to talk more about that in the future, and maybe focus on self awareness. Because again, I mean, you're a professional. You have a lot of knowledge that you can share, and this is a good spot to share it in. Also, I want anyone listening, please don't forget to hit the like button. Let us know, support us, support BBTV, and the Iron Sharpening Iron universe. We really, really appreciate it. This is the type of uh, these types of shows can, one or two sparks can light something for someone, can make such a difference, and that's why we love this. You are truly a wonderful voice of resilience, and John, also a good friend. So I'm very excited. So hang in there, don't go anywhere. I want to, although we're ending here, this isn't the end. So, again, everyone listening, thank you so much for being a part of the universe by showing up to any of our episodes and following. Hit the like button, hit the like button, hit the like button, subscribe, share, all of that. Please do that because this helps us to continue to bring this kind of great content. So, with that, I'm going to say to our listeners, this is the close of another great show. Okay.